Good morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning.
We got a great guest in studio. Been a while since we've talked with Mike Olsen. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, guys.
We are seeing around town. I know you brought by some brochures, and there's been conversations. This is not a new concept here, but a Veterans Memorial Boardwalk has re-emerged as a topic of conversation throughout the community, and Mike Olsen and Mike Fredson and the Historical Society as well are revisiting these, and this has got a long history, as I just mentioned. Tell us a little bit about the Veterans Memorial Boardwalk possible project. I know you were in front of the city council last night to explain it a little to them as well.
Right. The idea has been around for quite a while. The newest part is that the Veterans Memorial part of it.
Okay.
Mike Fredson's a vet, as myself is, and Tom Davis is also involved in this, another veteran. And Mike Fredson actually came up with the idea to pursue it as a veterans boardwalk, because there's really no memorial for veterans in the community. You know, there's Memorial Hall, which is a meeting place, but there's really no official designated spot to honor veterans, deceased and alive. So we thought we'd pursue that idea. Now the boardwalk has been in works for probably close to 20 years as a possibility with the city, connecting the marina to downtown Shelton. So we've kind of revitalized that idea as a Veterans Memorial Boardwalk to see if we could pursue the funding from private citizens and donations, because the city, of course, cannot fund it with their current budget situation.
Sure.
It's a pretty expensive project, actually. We're going to be relying on volunteer labor and donations, so we still think we're going to be in the $250,000 range just for materials for the project.
So this is on city property, so of course you have to kind of deal through the commission on, or the council on that one. And I know as you present and as people present to the council, there's not an opportunity for a back and forth. They listen during your
Correct.
allotted time. But after the meeting, did citizens contact you or come up to you and talk with you about this as a possibility? And what else have you heard just off council board chambers from folks?
Yeah, a couple of folks came up to me last night. It was a long meeting, so everybody kind of split out of there last night. But I have met informally with the city administrator and Mark Ziegler and Craig Gregory, two staff members, just to kind of lay out what we want to do, and got their feedback. Of course, they're not going to commit either way. They ask questions and stuff. But I didn't get any real pushback from anybody so far in the community. And of course, the the councilmen didn't respond last night. But I haven't gotten any negative aspects of it. So far, everybody we've talked to supports it.
So talk to me a little bit about this walk it would be. I know Mason Transit has a little bit of an area there for their park and ride. Is that going to be the start of it? Is it past the Pear Orchard area, or how's it look?
We're actually going to go all the way through the Pear Orchard. We would start, or one end of it would start next to was it Builder's First Choice, Lumberman's, I still call it, next to their green yard, and on the other side of it is the creek and the city's sewer pump station. So there's a bare lot right there. We would start there, go through the historic Pear Orchard, and connect up with Mason Transit's Park and Ride. I've already spoken to Danette, and they're supportive as far as working with us for a connection there. We haven't gone much past that, but it would connect up to the Park and Ride. So, and then eventually some sort of a path, maybe all the way around to the yacht club. I haven't really spoke with them. In fact, I'm meeting with Dave Mariano here next to see where they're at with it. But it's a kind of not only a veterans thing, but it's a connectivity for, pedestrian access and walking. The boardwalk itself will have we'll be selling engraved granite tiles. You can purchase one for your loved veteran, deceased or living, and they will be inlaid into the boardwalk itself, so that you can walk along and read the names. Similar to many communities have things like that.
Are they going to be like benches or any plans on something like that?
We haven't really got that
money?
far.
Yeah.
I mean, the original plan of the cities called for like bump outs where you could sit, and we will certainly look at things like that as we move along with it. We just need to see where the funding is at,
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff. It's like I say, it's about 700 feet long, so it's quite a bit of material.
When it
Yeah.
comes to any environmental concerns, if you're going over the Pear Orchard area or along kind of, I don't want to say swampy areas, but it's wet over there.
Exactly. Yes, it is.
What are some of the ways that you're going to try to mitigate that? sorts of things?
There's a system out there called a pin foundation, and it's the same foundation that the Nisqually Refuge use, if you've ever been there, that walks out over the water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's environmentally friendly because you don't dig into the ground to place your footings. They're actually a large pier with diagonal pins that sort of support it above there, and then you build off of that. The Nisqually one goes maybe a half a mile out over the water, and at high tide, the water goes over the top of the pins and up, up the piers. But yes, it is a swampy area. It's got some tidal influence from the bay, and it also is where Canyon Creek overflows in the winter. They send that down there. So it does have I've been out there in the summertime, and it's a little gushy. So we want to be able to, and besides that, we'd have to get a machine out there to dig holes, which would be, wreck the area even worse. So we're trying to be environmentally friendly with it. It is a unique site. It's the original David Shelton Pear Orchard, although the pear trees are somewhat, maybe dead and dying, but it is a unique site that can't really be used for anything else.
Even though we have almost 8,000 veterans in Mason County, I'm in Grapeview and stuff, which is obviously very small, but are there many other monuments to veterans, or not very many at all?
The only monuments I know of in the city of Shelton are in front of the post office. There's a small little 2x2 stone with engraved names of veterans who died in Vietnam. And then in front of the memorial hall, there are a couple of plaques just dedicating the building. But other than that, the cemetery, there's no other designated memorial.
Wow.
Many communities our size have, in a park or something that, where they've actually honored specifically veterans of, Mason or whatever community they're from. They have records at the museum all the way back from the Spanish-American War of people from Mason County who served there. So, because we're located close to Fort Lewis and McCord, there's a number of veterans that live here. I was stunned that there's, 7,000 or 8,000 of them living here.
So we have the brochures out that people have seen. You started a first conversation in front of the council. What's probable or would be in your vision a good timeline as we move forward maybe on this project, and how can folks get involved or help push the project forward?
We will. We haven't distributed the brochures yet. We're probably this week and over the next month or so we'll start, and then of course we will be soliciting major donors. Of course, it's a small community, so the usual, anybody can donate, whether you're a veteran or not. The purchase of the plaques, of course, will not fund the whole project.
Right.
They're more of a way to get everybody involved, and then the major money is going to have to come from, private donations, whether they be individuals or corporations or businesses or, whatever. We're going to start doing that here over the next month. We don't expect it to happen until next year, possibly, because we want to be able to have a large chunk of the money necessary before we start the project. We certainly don't want to get the city to spend money unnecessarily to help us with what they can help with until we know that this project will go, because we don't want it to be a bad taste in the community's mouth. So more than likely we will ask for pledges because we don't want to start collecting all this money and have it sit there for quite some time. It just depends on how quickly it goes. And how we're received. I know we're kind of competing with the YMCA for large donations, which is a great thing for the community too. And we feel with the Veterans Connection that we have a really good shot at this. I think it's important. As the City Council went through the process recently of the tiny home village for homeless veterans, I attended most of those meetings, and a number of veterans spoke. And what remarked on me was the amount of pride and pain a lot of these veterans still feel, even after 45, 50 years of Vietnam and before and since. And that, there's something the community can give back to these veterans to recognize what they've done. As we stated in the brochure, all these veterans came back and resumed normal lives here, and built this community. Loggers, builders, farmers, whatever radio disc jockeys, everybody that contributed to their country, and we feel it should be recognized. Is what's been driving this. I'm one of the younger of the Vietnam veterans at my age, and so many of them are into their 70s, and we've got even Mike's dad is a World War II veteran, and nobody knows it, but he was quite a hero, and we need to recognize that.
Yeah.
I think for the community, it's important.
In a possible upcoming project, the Veterans Memorial Boardwalk, you're sure to hear more about this throughout the next couple of months. Mike Olsen, good to see you, and thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you very much for letting me come on and spread the word.